So let's get right into installing ElasticSearch. Now, Elastic do provide you with some installation instructions of how to install their product. However, if you follow it on anything derived from Red Hat 9, so Alma Linux, Rocky Linux, CentOS 9, anything like that, you will come across a couple of problems that they don't talk about. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about them and also just show you the installation. So if you go to their downloads area, keep scrolling down until you get to ElasticSearch and click download. Pick your platform. For us it's Linux. We're not doing it with Ubuntu, so we're not using apt-get here. We are using yum or DNF. So let's go with yum. And here are the instructions. Now, as I was going through the instructions earlier this week, I actually put together my own installation guide here. And this talks a little bit about the problems and gives you some copy and paste that will work and allow you to completely install the product with no issues. If you want a copy of that, there'll be a link to it in the description. So let's go right ahead. So let's copy this repository. Luckily, Elastic provide us with a nice yum repository that we can use. So this is a brand new machine, so much so actually that if we type vim, we haven't even got it. So I'm going to go ahead and just, it's my editor of choice. Some people might choose Nano or something different. I like Vim, so I'm just going to go ahead and install Vim. And then I'm going to go and create a repository. So an etc yum.repos.d elasticsearch.repo. And in here, I'm going to put the contents here. Now, let's just have a look here. We're doing a GPG check, and here is the key that we want to do a GPG check of. We are also not enabling this repository. Now, I actually think we should enable this. I have a feeling that Elastic probably don't, because Elasticsearch is a database, so you don't just want to blindly upgrade databases, etc. But if you don't have it enabled and you do a yum update, you're not going to actually upgrade your package. In some scenarios, you may want to do that, some you may not. We'll leave it how they've got it. We just need to remember to enable. And also, this has got a GPG check. Now, you'll notice I've said that a couple of times now, and there's a very good reason for that. If I now go ahead and try and install ElasticSearch, making sure I enable the repo, ElasticSearch, what we'll notice is it will go and download the package. But let's see what happens when it tries to check the signature of the package. So in a minute, it's going to say to me, are you okay to import this key? Here we go. Error. Now, the reason this is errored, and it's a bit frustrating actually, I would have thought Elastic would have solved this problem quite a while ago, is that it's actually using a signing algorithm that's out of date. Now, it's using a signing algorithm of SHA-1, and that's the reason that we're getting this problem. Now, in my installation guide, I do talk about this, and we've got a couple of different options. We could set the default crypto policy to SHA-1 temporarily and then set it back. We could GPG check equals 0 on the entire repository, or do a no GPG check when we are installing the package. So let's talk over these options. The first one, we can change the crypto policy so that we're still going to check the signature, but we're going to use the SHA-1 algorithm to do that. We could just disable GPG checking in the repository, or just for this package, we can not check the GPG key. To me, option 1 is the best. We're still going to check the key. Yes, it's got a weaker algorithm, but it's still got one, and it's still worth checking it. Check whether it's valid. So let's go ahead and do that. I have been having a look at the analytics for the channel, and 97, nearly 98% of my viewers that watch my videos have not subscribed. Now, it really does help the channel out subscribing to my channel. It helps me gain more traction, and ultimately I'm able to put out much better videos. Please, would you do me a favor, and if you gain any value or learn anything from any of the videos that I teach, really appreciate that you would subscribe. Thank you. And there we go. That was just a copy and paste issue. that you have sometimes when copying out of documents. So when I've manually typed that in, that's gone straight through. So we've set the default policy now to SHA-1. If we go through and install this now, it's already downloaded, so that should be fine. And then it should say, do you want to sign? Accept the key. And there you go, key imported successfully. And let's give that a minute or two. And there we have it. Now there's a couple of things that we need to take note of post installation. If we scroll up a little bit here, we have our super user password. So the Elastic user is a super user. We need to just make a note of this password. So I'm just going to open up a text editor. I'm just going to make a note of that password. There it is. It talks a little bit here about clusters. We're not doing anything with clusters. We're just having a one node Elasticsearch instance. If we want to reset the password, we can do so doing this. If we need a enrollment token, and we will need an enrollment token when we set up Kibana, this is how you do it. And if you want an enrollment token for Elasticsearch nodes, this is how you do it. So we've done that. Let's scroll down. It's saying now that we need to do a daemon reload, we need to enable the service, and we need to start the service. However, if we go and do that right now, Elasticsearch will still fail to start. Let me show you. Let's do a daemon reload. Let's do an enable just to make sure that when we restart the server, it comes up on boot and we don't need to try and start it. And let's go and start the service. And there we have it. It takes quite a while to load. It does look like it's running. So if I do a status on this service, it says it's running. However, if I go and look at var log Elasticsearch and look at the log files, scroll up a little bit, we can see here it says master not discovered yet. This node has not previously joined a bootstrap cluster, and this node must discover master eligible nodes. So what it's basically saying is it's trying to join a cluster, trying to find a master node. Now this is a single node setup that we're doing. And even if it wasn't, you still need a single node to start building out a cluster. So there's a couple of things that we need to do. This will keep going and keep failing. If I try and curl Elasticsearch to get me a status, it won't be able to. So we need to go and have a look at the config. Now the great thing about all of the Elastic products is their configs are very similar. So in etc and then the product name, whether that's Elasticsearch, Kibana, any of the Beats products, Filebeat, etc. It's all in etc, the name, and then the name.yaml. So we have elasticsearch.yaml. And if we go in here, it's very well documented, and we can scroll through and find many different things. There's two things in here that are really important. One is near the bottom, and it's called a cluster initial masters node, and it's set to localhost. However, that's not sufficient in this example. We need to set that to the host name of the server, as in the name that we give it, not the fully qualified host name. If we scroll up to the top, what we'll notice is we've got a node name here. I'm going to call it node 1. I don't need to call it anything else. Node 1 is fine for this demonstration. And then at the bottom, in this master nodes, this needs to be called node 1. Like that. And now, if I go and restart Elasticsearch, it takes a moment to stop and start. And when that has restarted, we will be able to connect to Elasticsearch. So let's give that a moment. And there we have it. So let's now go and have a look at the log file. Scroll up a bit. We can see here, look, node 1, there's a license, it's valid, it's the basic license, etc, etc. Now the last thing we could actually do is do a curl on the file. So we can do a curl, we can do a -u elastic. And remember that password we stored earlier? Here it is. So use that password and then do HTTPS localhost 9200, as 9200 is the port that Elastic uses. If I run this now, it's going to fail because it's insecure. We can do one of two things. We can do a -k, and here we go. We get back that it's node 1 that we called it. The cluster name is Elasticsearch. This is the build number, etc, etc. Or we can clear our screen, and again we can do a curl. Instead of a -k here, we can do a --ca cert. We can give it the path to the cert, which is Elasticsearch certs http://ca.cert, and again we can put our username in, which is elastic, and then that password again, which I'm just going to go and copy and paste, and then we should be able to hit enter, and it's ca cert without a dash. And if I'd been reading my installation guide here, I would see it's just like that. And there we go. We didn't have to do, oh, we still got a -k in there. Let's take this -k out. And there we go. So we're using the ca cert. We're not doing a -k, which is insecure and just ignoring any certificate errors. We're using the certificate that we should be using, and we're now getting back that. So there we have it, a fully installed, very simple but installed Elasticsearch setup that we can now connect Kibana, the Beats products and things like that to it, and start building out our logging instance. I have been having a look at the analytics for the channel, and 97, nearly 98% of my viewers that watch my videos have not subscribed. Now, it really does help the channel out subscribing to my channel. It helps me gain more traction, and ultimately I'm able to put out much better videos. Please, would you do me a favor, and if you gain any value or learn anything from any of the videos that I teach, really appreciate that you would subscribe. Thank you. So let's go ahead and install Kibana. So Kibana is a front-end interface that can connect to Elasticsearch and give us nice visualizations. So again, if we go across the platform and we click on ELK Stack Overview, scroll down a little bit, we'll see Kibana. Click Learn More, and we can download it. Pick we're using Linux, and again, I'm going to be using Yum. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos in this series, I have a server already set up with Elasticsearch, and I'm just going to be installing Kibana on the same server. Now, as I go through the config, I'll show you that you can point Kibana at other Elasticsearch instances or cluster members, but for the sake of simpleness, I am just doing everything on one server. So we can click on Yum, and we will get the instructions for it. So let's go ahead and create the repository. And in here, we want to put the contents in like this, and then save this file. Now, if you've seen my video on installing Elasticsearch, we're going to have the same problem. So I'm going to do a yum install Kibana, which will go download Kibana and try and install it. And while it's installing it, it will try and import a GPG key. And that GPG key, as you can see here, is failing. And the reason it's failing is because the GPG key has been signed with a SHA-1 algorithm, which is no longer supported by Red Hat. Now, I've got a document that I've been creating that I'll leave a link in the description that you can go and download yourself. And in this document, it talks about this and exactly, look, that SHA-1 prevents you from importing the GPG key. And also a document from Red Hat explaining why in RHEL 9 it is now no longer allowed. Now we can actually resolve this. We can actually update the crypto policy and set the default to SHA-1, but we should always make sure that we set it back. We could just disable GPG checking, which is not advisable because it's still good to check the signature for something. So let's go ahead and set the policy. So it's an update crypto policies -- set default SHA-1. And there we go. So we can actually then check what our policy is just by running that. And we can see now we're set to the default SHA-1. So let's go ahead and install Kibana now. It's already been downloaded and it should go through and install that fine. And there we have it. So Kibana has been installed. We should probably now go back and set the policy just back to default. And then let's have a look through my guide. We've gone in, we've installed Kibana. Now we need to actually go and get the Elastic password because we will need it in a minute. So let's go and run this command. And it'll reset the password for us. I have been having a look at the analytics for the channel, and 97, nearly 98% of my viewers that watch my videos have not subscribed. It really does help the channel out subscribing to my channel. It helps me gain more traction, and ultimately I'm able to put out much better videos. Please, would you do me a favor, and if you gain any value or learn anything from any of the videos that I teach, really appreciate that you would subscribe. Thank you. I'm going to say yes to that. And here is the new value. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a daemon reload. We want to systemctl enable Kibana so that on boot it will run. Let's go ahead and do a start. And what we'll notice when we start is that, as per my instructions, we've missed a step out. And the step that we've missed is we need to bind Kibana to an IP address, not just localhost. And the reason that we need to do that is that if we just leave it on localhost, when we load up a browser to try and configure it, we're not going to be able to get to it because it's only listing on localhost. So this has started all well and fine. But if we go into vim etc Kibana, kibana.yaml, we will see various things in here. We've got the server pool, we can leave that at 5601, that's fine. We've got this server host, and it says here, specifies the address to which Kibana server will bind. IP addresses and host names are both valid. I'm going to set this to 0.0.0.0, which is bind to any IP addresses that you can find. Then let's scroll down a little bit. We can set host names for display purposes if you want. We can do SSL. And we can do ElasticSearch. So Elastic out of the box this will work. It will be on localhost 9200. So this should all just work. So let's save and quit. And let's restart Kibana. Systemctl restart Kibana. And then let's grab the IP address of this server, which is here. And remember, if we go back to the config, scroll to the top, it's 5601 is the port that we want. So let's scroll down a little bit here. And just before we try and get to that, and I'll demonstrate that to you now, it will not work on a normal server. 5601. And the reason being is the firewall has not opened up that port just yet. So again, in my instructions, and this isn't listed in the Kibana instructions, because I think they just assume you should know what you're doing. So let's go and open this up. Now this happens sometimes when you're copying and pasting, and it's successful. So let's go back now and check. So quite easily here it says, where do I find this? It says, well, you need to run this command. And again, in my instructions, I've listed the full command. We scroll down a little bit, here's the full command. So they're doing it from bin because they're not sure exactly where you would have installed it. I know that user share Elasticsearch is where this is set up. So I've done the full command here. So let's now go and run that. And let's give it a minute. Another copy and paste problem there. And there we have our enrollment token. So let's take that. Let's pop that in here and hit configure Elastic. Now again, it's asking for now a verification code. So back to my document. I've got the full command here that we can copy and paste straight in here. So we can grab this verification code and put it in here. Which can take a few moments. So I'll speed this video up until the end. Now, one thing I've noticed is that the completing setup actually never completes. But after a few minutes, just reload your page and you'll get a login. Now what we need to remember is we need to know the Elastic password. Now we reset it earlier and I made a note of it. If you don't remember what it is, again, you could go and reset it again. And scrolling up here, we can see that's how you do it. So I'm putting the password in there and just pressing login. And here we have it. Kibana is now installed and connected to Elasticsearch. We can test that it is connected to Elasticsearch by going on these three dots, going all the way down to management, and then going to index management. Now, Kibana actually uses Elasticsearch to store its configuration data. So actually Kibana can't run without Elasticsearch anyway. But if you go to the index management, you can see here that there's two indices ready and being used by Kibana. So you know that you are connected to an Elasticsearch instance because you can see these indices. So let's go ahead and install Logstash. So Logstash is predominantly used for transforming data. So you can send it a log file, and then Logstash could alter that log file in such a way that it's easier for you to view things in Kibana, for example. Alternatively, Logstash is also just good as an endpoint. If you make Elasticsearch a public endpoint, you've just got a surface of attack there to get straight to your data. Whereas if you put Logstash in the way and say that you can only connect to Logstash and not Elasticsearch, Logstash doesn't hold all of your data. So it's just a much secure way of doing it. Even if you don't want to do any of the transforming of data, I still recommend that you just put Logstash in the way, just as a secure way to ensure that people can't get to your data. So as with all of the other Elastic products, you can go straight to their website and go to platform, go to ELK Stack overview, keep scrolling down. Let's look in integrations. And as we scroll down through integrations, we'll see a couple of things here. The Elastic Agent, a web crawler, and Logstash right here. So we can click on Learn More. and then we can click on download. Again, pick up operating system and click on Yum. And here are the instructions for installing it. Now, the repository for Logstash is actually the same repository as Kibana. So if you've already installed Kibana and you're installing Logstash on the same machine, so in very small setups you may do this. Usually you would have Logstash on a dedicated machine, or you may have a group of Logstash servers. Same with an ElasticSearch cluster. But in our case, it's all on one server. So I've already got this repository set up. So they go through the instructions of what you need to do. According to them, you just need to install Logstash, and then there will be some stashing your first events and things like that. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. Now, I have, again, got my own instructions on how to do this, because once again, we've got the same problem with SHA-1. So their packages are signed using a SHA-1 algorithm, which for Red Hat 9 is not allowed by default out the box. It should be a 256 signing algorithm, but you can downgrade that to a SHA-1 to install your package. So let's go ahead and do that. If we scroll through here, we're just going to do an install. We're going to reload the daemon. We're going to enable Logstash, and then there's some configuration that we can do here. So I'm going to skip this bit. I've already got the repository, but I am just going to go and install Logstash. So here is the server that I have Kibana and ElasticSearch running on. I'm just going to go ahead and install Logstash. And here we go again. We've got the same problem with the GPG key. So we already have this command. Update crypto policies, set the default to SHA-1. And then let's go again and install Logstash. It's already been downloaded, so it should be a little bit quicker. And there we go, it's already installing. So we've passed that bit. And then after this, I'm actually going to go and set that back to default, just to keep our system secure for signing packages correctly. There we are. So the next thing we need to do is do a daemon reload, and then we need to enable. So systemctl daemon reload, and then a systemctl enable Logstash to make sure that it will run at boot. Now, before we go ahead and start Logstash up, we need to go to etc Logstash, and there will be a logstash.yaml file. And in here, there's loads and loads of things to have a look at, but there's actually not a lot that you need to change in here. It's just good to know about it, as all of the configuration is actually in a config file. So if we actually go in here and go to conf.d, there's nothing in here. However, if we go to log one folder up and copy out the Logstash sample configuration into conf.d, and then have a look at it, we have some default settings here. And most of this is just fine out of the box. So it's just saying that we're going to open up a port 5044 to allow beats data to come in. This is just a name, it could be anything. But this is now set. So we're about to enable port 5044. And then we just need to set the output. So we've got ElasticSearch, so we need to configure that. The index that we want to use, and then a username and password for ElasticSearch. Now we can go and set one up. We can use the Elastic one if we really want to for this purpose. Usually I'd recommend going and setting up a user, and I will show you how to do that. So the one thing we need to do is grab the ElasticSearch IP address. Now it is this host. So that's 10.104.2.20. So let's go and put that in here. It's also HTTPS. We're using a secure authentication method. I am going to use the Elastic user just for now, and I'll go and show you in a minute where we change that. And the password is this. I have been having a look at the analytics for the channel, and 97, nearly 98% of my viewers that watch my videos have not subscribed. Now, it really does help the channel out subscribing to my channel. It helps me gain more traction, and ultimately I'm able to put out much better videos. Please, would you do me a favor, and if you gain any value or learn anything from any of the videos that I teach, really appreciate that you would subscribe. Thank you.
And now I can do systemctl start Logstash. And that should be all we need. If we go and have a look, var log logstash star.log. Oh, what we're going here? We've got no logs yet. Nope. Okay, fine. We can go into var log messages. Interesting. So this is a brand new server, and our syslog is not installed, so we don't even have var log messages. So let me go quickly and install our syslog. And then enable our syslog so it runs at boot, and then let's go and start it. And then we should restart Logstash. Back. And what we'll notice, or what you should still see, is that we've still got a problem with connecting to Logstash. And the problem will be the self-signed SSL key. So let's give it a minute, but we should see in here in a minute. Starting Logstash. And got info here. Attempting to resurrect connection to dead ECES instance, and that is because Elasticsearch is unreachable. And the reason it's unreachable is because of an SSL error. In fact, we can see it here, look, unable to find valid certificate. So what we need to do, the last thing we need to do is in here, after password, we need to do SSL certificate verification. False. Now in this demonstration, I'm not going to go into, you can set up proper, signed certificates and things like that. I'm not going to do that right now. I just want to kind of show you everything in action. So I'm just going to restart Logstash to take that configuration into account, and then I'm going to tail the messages file again. And we should start to see that Logstash can now connect to Elasticsearch. And here we are. So we can see here that we've got data streams set up. We can see here that it's got a default mapping table. You can see here it's installing the Elasticsearch template for ECS Logstash. So we are confident now that Logstash is connected to Elasticsearch. And then finally, we have two things to do. Number one, we need to set the firewall. And this is the command we're going to need. Firewall CMD, public zone, we want it permanent, and we want to add 5044. So let's go ahead and do that. And just to confirm, the reason we're using 5044 is because we've set that here. And now let's just reload the firewall. And then let's go back over to Elasticsearch. Now in the management area of Elasticsearch, we scroll down to users. We've got all the different users, and one of them is the Logstash system user. Now we can actually use the Logstash system user, which was created when Logstash was able to connect to Elasticsearch. We can go and change the password. Let's change it to Logstash1, Logstash1. So this is the password that we're going to use. So it's logstash_system with logstash1. That password has been changed. Now over here, we can now stop using this super user and do logstash system. Set the password. And again, restart Logstash. So we've now secured Logstash by not using a super user, but using the Logstash system user to be able to lock down permissions. And if we look in the log files and give it a moment, we should still see that Logstash is able to connect to Elasticsearch. And here we go. Look, we can still see that it's restored the connection and it's now using the Logstash system user. So this is a lot more secure and just allows us to protect and look after that Elastic super user. And that concludes the Logstash configuration. So we can now see Logstash is connected to Elasticsearch. We can now send data to Elasticsearch via Logstash, which is a much more secure method. And in my next video, that's exactly what I'll be demonstrating.